How do you hope to continue that work with the Royal Foundation?
Yes, I mean, I think that knowing that I've just been here for 3 months, right? I guess we wait a couple months and then we can hit the ground running. But up until then, I'm pretty excited.
As requested, I'll analyze the Royal Foundation interview, focusing on Meghan's statements. I'll compare her statements to the statements of Harry, William and Kate, and I'll point out how her way of responding differs from them. I'll be using SA and CA to analyze her words in detail. If you're interested in language analysis, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. Initially, we'll observe how Kate, Harry and William answered the interviewer's questions.
Duchess, we can definitely give you credit for coming up with the idea to work together on the campaign around mental health. How did that come about and why was that important for you?
It's very generous of you to say it was an idea, but actually it was going back right to the beginning when we were looking at the different ways in which we could all work with the foundation. And I suppose I'd learnt through sort of meeting some of my patronages that there was sort of all these underlying causes across so many different sectors. Mental health just kept on flagging up every time, whether it's with addiction or school support and with vulnerable young children. So it's something that I felt very passionate about, but it was something that I think all three of us at the time felt that we really could make a far bigger impact together on, rather than just one of us acting alone on it.
The interviewer praises Kate specifically.
Duchess, we can definitely give you credit for coming up with the idea to work together.
However, Kate uses association to show that all three of them, including Harry and William, came up with the idea that they could make a greater impact together. This way, she shares the interviewer's praise and makes it sound like a collaborative effort. She does this as well in the following.
How much of a difference did it make, the three of you, behind that call to action?
Well, I've always felt really strongly in sort of putting ideas together. We all had very different areas that we're working with. Sort of Harry doing a lot with knife crime, William with a lot with homelessness, and for me with sort of addiction and things. And I just think being able to sort of come together to find some sort of common ground, and be able to sort of draw ideas together and find a way forward, I think was really, really exciting.
Next, we should pay attention to Harry's answer. He sounds very much invested in the work with his brother. This is noteworthy when we consider this statement from the Oprah interview. He says that his current relationship to his brother is space. Next, we should notice how he includes all four of them in his statements. Like Kate, he shares the glory with everyone else.
I think as William's touched on, as we've mentioned in the past, it's all about changing mindsets. I think the biggest successes that the Royal Foundation has had to date is all based around changing mindsets. We, the four of us and everybody at the Royal Foundation and all of our supporters, hopefully, believe that actually in order to have long-lasting change, to have a long-lasting impact, you have to somewhat ignore the symptom. We realise that with this very unique opportunity, this unique platform, that we have to be tackling the cause of the problem. Exactly what William said in his speech. You know, we're the Royal Foundation. I'm not saying that other foundations don't listen, but we pride ourselves on going into a situation, convening people and listening.
William also shares their vision by association.
What do you want to focus on next?
I think we've looked at ways of collaborating again. I think it'd be wonderful if we could do another project or another campaign, similar impact here together, or as a unit, as a family. Each of us have got our own ideas and work streams that we'd like to build upon. But I think what we can bring as the Royal Foundation is that convening effort. And I think if you put some of the big foundations in the world together, along with our convening power of the Royal Foundation, and if we focus on certain big issues, hopefully global, I think we can make a really big difference.
Kate continues the association and also personalization.
Coping with parenthood, supporting the next generation of mothers are issues that are very close to your heart.
Absolutely, and I've learned a huge amount from firstly the patronages that I've worked with, but also some of the amazing experts that I met along the way. And you can't help but reflect on then your own life, and it's definitely had an impact on how sort of I look at how I mother, how we work as a family, and you know how we hope to bring up our children. And I've learned so much. And I just, you know, if some of this knowledge and some of the facts and figures that I've learned along the way could be passed on to the general public, I think in an awareness campaign or something like that, I think would be, you know, hugely beneficial to all mothers and parents out there.
Next, Meghan's audibly uncomfortable with the question she's asked.
Meghan, you touched on it before. You have, it's well known, you've championed the empowerment of women and young girls and promoting their self-worth. How do you hope to continue that work with the Royal Foundation?
Yes, I mean, I think that knowing that I've just been here for 3 months, right? And in that amount of time, but with that said, for me, it's very important to, once you hit the ground running, even if you're doing it quietly behind the scenes, which is what I've focused my energy on thus far, is meeting with the right people, meeting with the right organizations behind the scenes quietly, learning as much as I can so that I can maximize the opportunity we have here to really make an impact.
The interviewer asked her a so-called presupposition question, where she presupposes that Meghan has an answer. Presupposition questions are different from yes-no questions that have a shorter format. Rather than giving a direct answer to the question, Meghan makes a longer preface, a lead-in. This lead-in's obviously sensitive to her, since it's the first thing on her mind. First, there's a turn-initial delay, which suggests that the question's problematic in one way or another, probably because she wasn't prepared for it. Then there's a hesitation marker in form of an interjection. She then says yes, even though she wasn't asked a yes-no question, and she uses the hedge I mean, which gives her additional time before she says that she's only been there for 3 months. She laughs while saying this, but this type of laughter indicates self-awareness or nervousness. Laughter is often used when a person's uncomfortable with something, but it's also used to correct the other speaker. Meghan's statement sounds like a reminder to the interviewer and everyone else in the room, and simultaneously functions as an excuse. She uses the pronoun you, which generalizes and normalizes what she's saying. In this case, that it is in fact possible to do something quietly behind the scenes. She sets this normalization frame before she switches to the personal pronoun I, emphasizing her own experience. With thus far, she puts a time restriction on her efforts. It's implied that there'll be a time when she focuses her energy elsewhere, most likely focusing on something public. She repeats the phrase behind the scenes quietly, so this is obviously sensitive to her to get across. Again, this sounds like a way of countering possible objections. Overall, this passage has a self-protective function. In this context, self-protective statements are often observed when the person feels that they haven't done much or enough work, or that they feel inferior to the other people on stage, or both. Next, rather than answering what she'll specifically do to continue her work, Meghan gives her opinion on the matter.
I think what's interesting is I hear a lot of people saying when speaking about girls' empowerment, finding and knowing their worth, or women's empowerment as well, you'll often hear people say, well, you're helping women find their voices. And I fundamentally disagree with that, because women don't need to find a voice. They have a voice, they need to feel empowered to use it, and people need to be encouraged to listen. And I think right now in the climate that we're seeing with so many campaigns, I mean, with Me Too and Time's Up, there is no better time than to really continue to shine a light on women feeling empowered and people really helping to support them, men included in that. I mean, it makes such a tremendous difference. So,
voice is a recurring concept in Meghan's statements. In her interview with Oprah, she referred to it multiple times. First, she compared her life to when she sat in Nottingham Cottage and watched The Little Mermaid. Even though she's embarrassed or acts embarrassed about having watched this movie as an adult, it's clear that she reflects her royal life in something fictional. Also, she makes herself sound like the victim and the hero of the story, the one who overcame the oppressing monarchy and quote-unquote got her voice back. Later in the interview, she overemphasizes this status as a victim and as a hero. She makes it sound like she's doing this interview for others than her. She says she shares this because there's so many people who are afraid to voice that they need help. But unlike many other causes that have clearly defined victims, this sounds vague and undefined. Later on, it becomes clear that she's using this vague voice concept as a stepping stone to advertise for the mental health series that the two of them are working on. So, all in all, the concept of voice seems like the go-to narrative for Meghan, especially when she doesn't have a specific answer at hand, as is the case here. After this detour, she finishes where she started, with a reminder to the interviewer and the audience.
I guess we wait a couple months and then we can hit the ground running. But up until then, I'm pretty excited.
But like you said, I mean, you've been here for 3 years. Yeah, wedding first. Get that done.
We can multitask.
Given the interviewer's closing assessment, it's Meghan's words about the wedding that ended up being the most essential outcome of her answer. The question that the interviewer asked was largely avoided, and the way Meghan starts and ends her answer reveals that it wasn't the main focus.
Knowing that I've just been here for 3 months, right? I guess we wait a couple months and then we can hit the ground running. But up until then, I'm pretty...
Next, the interviewer parrots Meghan's words about working behind the scenes quietly, and notice Meghan's answer.
Having said that, you have been quietly, like you say, behind the scenes, let's just say laying the foundations for your future work. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sadly, I can't.
Can you tell us a bit more
Meghan's
about
turn
that?
initial delay and the smacking
Sadly,
sound suggest that this is yet another dispreferred question. People often laugh when they know that they've given or another person's given a dispreferred answer, to avoid embarrassment. This gives an idea of how much people are governed by conversational rules, even if they don't always think about it.
But I will say, you know, if we know how, and I certainly know how passionate I am, and Harry and I see the world so similarly in our approach of being very hands-on with things, what I can say is that I have been fortunate enough to meet with some incredible women and organizations in general in the UK that are doing work here, but then also knowing that some of the work that I've done in the past has been in Commonwealth countries like Rwanda, India. So this reach, I think, can have some really nice legs to it once we can start. But
After May.
Yes, exactly. To be continued.
Okay. Look forward to picking up on that conversation later.
Thank you. But I
With
will
her
say,
vowel
you know,
stress on the
what I
verbs
can
will
say is
and
that-
can, she shows us that she feels the need to say something, that it would be embarrassing not to.
And Harry and I see
Her
the
short
world
association
so
with
similarly in
Harry
our approach of
about their
being very
shared
hands-on
view
with
on the
things.
world sounds like she doesn't want to be alone with the question.
Knowing that
With
some
the
of work that
words,
I've done
the
in the
work
past has
that
been in
I've done,
Commonwealth countries.
the association with Harry's gone, and she now highlights her efforts. In other words, she switches from the personal pronoun we to I. Next, we notice the seemingly well-functioning relationship between Harry and William, which is in contrast to their current relationship, but also in contrast to the negativity about the royal life that Harry's expressed in recent interviews. First, we hear and see Harry's passion for the project.
As we've discussed, Heads Together, there's so much more to do. We've made a difference. We know that. Everybody that was part of the campaign knows that. Hopefully, all the partners feel that. Some of them are nodding, some of them aren't. But I think we understand. We realise that there's so much more to do. It's very much unfinished work there. So I'm looking forward to supporting that. Again, Coach Corps is a fantastic thing that we've got going on here. Something like 75 or 80% of young people in this country, and I mean young people like this high, sort of 6, 7 years old, have a bad experience with their first coach, with their first sporting endeavour as such.
Next, we observe the two brothers laugh with each other.
Did you expect it to be that successful?
No. As an answer.
It was organised on the back of a fag packet.
Oh, yeah.
Good to know.
It was.
In the following, we again observe William's display of empathy by praising Kate for her ideas.
I think, as you alluded to earlier, Catherine was the one who put the sort of joined the dots together for all of us. She was the one who came up with the idea and the concept, as it were, because Harry and I had never thought about doing a campaign as such before. And when you tackle mental health, it was very difficult to know where to start. It's such a big issue and it's so entrenched in society.
He also praises people in the audience for their work.
But also having that focus of the marathon, we can't thank the marathon enough for accepting, the mental health marathon last year. It was fantastic. It gave us a focus point. It gave us something to drive the campaign towards. And then to see all the runners in their headbands was quite something, even if we had to wear them ourselves at one point. But it was worth it to see that relief. And actually, during the mental health campaign, and I know Rian, I know she's here somewhere, and she's going to hate the fact that I pointed her out. But people like Rian, who spoke on the mental health marathon, she ran the marathon for mental health, along with many other amazing people who had very, very sad times happen to them, or very, very difficult testing times.
Now, Meghan's asked how she's experienced the work from afar.
Meghan, what did you make of it watching from afar?
I think probably the same sentiment that most people had. Obviously happening here, the stigmatization surrounding mental health is different and unique in every territory. But I was in Canada at the time, and I just remember how much news coverage it was getting. And just in that alone, it was getting such a conversation point happening amongst people. And I think, again, to the point that they've all touched on earlier, it was because of that togetherness, because you had so many different organizations under this umbrella. And each of them is shining this spotlight on it. So I think in North America, at least from that standpoint, I remember it being a very large point of conversation, and I would imagine in other countries as well. It made such a huge impact. It was very impressive to watch from afar.
Again, she starts her answer by sounding surprised.
I think...
She makes a self-repair, a self-initiated interruption of an utterance. She then uses the hitch, I think, indicating probability rather than certainty, before she associates with most people, as she says. Before she mentions her own experience about being in Canada at the time, it's obviously sensitive to her to first make her point through other people. She says they've all touched upon earlier. If she had said you, she would be talking to Harry, William and Kate, but by saying they, she makes it clear that she's speaking to the interviewer. It's a small point, but it again underlines what we've observed so far, that Harry, William and Kate are more inclined to include each other in their statements. Next, we notice how Harry's able to laugh at the challenges they've had. He sounds sincerely cheerful and not at all affected by these challenges. His positivity is in direct contrast to his most recent statements about the royal life, even saying that his father and brother are trapped. Listen to this.
And I have to ask you, all the work you do together is great, but working together as family, do you ever have disagreements about things?
Oh, yes.
Healthy disagreement.
Okay, the last thing you disagreed on, how do you resolve it?
I can't remember, they come so thick and fast.
Is it resolved? We don't know.
Oh, we don't know. Well, you're putting on a great show if it's not.
No, but I think it's really good that we've got, four different personalities, and we've all got that same passion to want to make a difference, but different opinions, and I think those opinions work really, really well. Working as family does have its challenges, of course it does. Everybody here, the fact that everyone's laughing means that everybody knows exactly what it's like. But look, we're stuck together for the rest of our lives, so...
This is true.
Togetherness at its
Togetherness,
finest, really.
yeah.
Meghan's also seemingly positive.
4 heads are better than 1.
Well, and thank goodness it's such differing personalities, and that everyone's very communicative, because that's how you can really see bigger change. If everyone's thinking the same way, how are you going to push the envelope? How are you really going to break through in a different sort of mindset? Changing mindsets and all of that is part of this communication that we have constantly. So I think it's part of the reason they've had so much success with Heads Together and whatever we end up working on moving forward.
And you encourage that diversity of thinking between yourselves. That's great.
We also observed a positive attitude in the engagement interview, where she praises the royal family and specifically Kate.
And it was really one of the first things we connected on. It was one of the first things we started talking about when we met, was just the different things that we wanted to do in the world and how passionate we were about seeing change, I think.
Have you met each other's families, I imagine?
Yes, his family's been so welcoming, and
You've met quite a few of them, actually.
I have, on both sides of his family, his mom's side as well, which has been really important to me too. But yes, the family has been great, and over the past year and a half, we've just had a really nice time getting to know them and progressively helping me feel a part of not just the institution, but also part of the family, which has been really, really special.
Have you met the Queen?
I have, yes.
A couple of times.
What was
Yes, sure,
that
a
like?
couple of times. It's incredible. I think.
What was it like introducing Meghan to your father and your brother?
What was it like? It was exciting. I mean, I've been seeing her for a period of time when I literally didn't tell anybody at all. And then William was longing to meet her, and so was Catherine. So, they're being our neighbours. We managed to get that in quite a few times now. And Catherine's been absolutely
Wonderful.
amazing.
This positivity is in direct contrast to her attitude in the Oprah interview. Here, she finds it important to mention that Kate made her cry, and that she was hurt by this, even though she says she doesn't say this to be disparaging to anyone, and that she's been the bigger person and have forgiven her. I've made videos of the engagement interview and the Oprah interview. You'll find the links in the description. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.
Whatever we have to tackle together or individually will always be us together as a team. So I think she's capable
So
of.
nicely said, isn't it?
I don't know. She's capable of anything. And if anybody else at home is listening, then maybe slow down on the dates and maybe spend more time at home. But no, it's for us. It's an opportunity to really get to know each other without other people looking or trying to take photos on their phones and all that kind of stuff. With that. That comes with the job, comes with the role. But where possible,
Yes. And we were able to really get to know each other that way. But also then to go and have friends over for dinner, or to go to his family for tea, or